My coach asked me to tell my story to the community reporters to show people who are struggling that there is help out there. Now, a few months before I wouldn't have dreamed of doing it, but by this stage I was up for it, and this is what I have done, telling you about how bad I felt, how I didn't see any way out. Before I came to Being Well Salford, I tried group therapy, which at the time was a disaster as I couldn't cope with groups of people, and I ended up coming out of the sessions feeling worse than when I went in.
So I realised that I had to do something about my weight following a family holiday. Another woman had to take my son on a ride. I couldn't get on it, I was too big, and that's when I woke up and thought, come on Georgie, you need to lose weight.
I found the leaflet in my jacket pocket. I don't even know where I got it from. God knows how long it had been in my pocket. See, I get a lot of leaflets.
And I locked myself away for such a long time that I forgot how to be a person and felt I wasn't part of the human race.
I've rang countless numbers over the years, all lead nowhere. A woman on the other end of the line asked me my name. Here we go again, I thought.
And I felt like I'd gotten confidence to come forward and start making a change.
With the help of my coach, I found the confidence to try new things.
I took a breath and I began. The woman listened. I know she listened because when she spoke, she seemed to know what I was talking about. She seemed interested. She seemed to care.
So I then went to my GPs and asked them about all my other options because I wanted to do it naturally. I didn't want to go down the route of surgery, and that's when I got referred to Being Well.
Anyway, she booked me an appointment with a coach, and in a few weeks I was knocking at a door.
Also, I've got other family members with heart conditions, and I wanted to be around longer for my children because they're my main motivation and focus.
Mind blank, expectations low. Come in. So I opened the door and I walked in.
My first appointment with my coach at Being Well Salford was a very stressful time. It took all of my family to get me there and make sure I stayed there.
I was offered a seat, so I sat on it. There was a brief pause while papers were adjusted on a desk. My eyes found my feet, and I contemplated what comes next. Experience tells me there'll be a question, then I'll spend the next 3/4 of an hour painfully regurgitating my miserable story.
The warm greeting instantly lifted my mood. The session began and the things were discussed about my issues, and from then on I've slowly started to smile more and enjoy myself more.
And when I went into the room, it felt as if I was going to my execution. My coach was very understanding and did all the talking, as all I could do was yes and no answers, sweat a lot and just about stay in the room.
Names were exchanged. Then she asked, "Well, Stephen, what would you like to talk about?"
In the past, the help I got just didn't help me at all, and I didn't think I could be helped. But the calm and reassuring manner of my coach gradually calmed me down, and I started to listen to her.
I looked up from my feet, and I was pleasantly surprised by a friendly face and a smile. Seeing the confused look upon my face, she asked, "Oh, we could just sit here and say nothing."
And as the session went on, what I was being told started to make sense, and for the first time in years I had hoped that I could be helped at last.
Now I wasn't expecting that.
The one thing that scared me about changing my life was always thinking that I wouldn't be able to go out and enjoy myself or overindulge, because I always put going out with eating or drinking.
As the sessions with my well-being coach progressed, slowly the depression side and the antisocial side of my problem entangled, and they became like two separate entities, thus becoming easier to understand and to overcome.
For a long time I didn't think I could be helped. The agoraphobia, the depression, the panic attacks. I really thought I was wasting everybody's time going to the sessions.
It became apparent that the mental side of my depression was a tough nut to crack, so we concentrated on working on the getting out and about side of my problem. By the wealth of activities and groups I could join.
But then I found different ways of coping with it and choosing better choices. And as I was losing the weight, I come to realise that I could go out and enjoy myself without overindulging and still being happy.
It was about the fourth session when I woke up that morning that I realised that I was actually looking forward to seeing my coach and having a conversation with her, telling her about my day, what worked, what didn't. It was a real light at the end of the tunnel moment when I thought, hey, I might actually be helped to get better.
Being in a group was slightly daunting. In fact, it took quite a bit of persuasion for me to join. So, but when I actually got there, it was surprisingly good fun.
So 5 months down the line and 5 stone lighter, and I'm happier, and I'm really happy that I went to Wellbeing.
One of the things about talking to my coach about my problems is that it can get me down, always going on about it.
Sometimes the conversations were really light, and we'd go on mad tangents, and we deviate quite a lot.
So to make me feel at ease, we started talking about my love of dogs and the fact that my sister had just got a chocolate lab. We also talked about the dogs I have had in my life and how they made me feel and what type of dogs we like.
There are great benefits to these interludes that we have. The old fact that human contact, just being human and having a laugh and just being talking to and not being the subject of like I'm a nut to crack or I'm some kind of problem. It's so like proper human contact.
At the end of this session, I left feeling as if I'd had a chat with a friend rather than a coach, which really brought my mood up. The first and up to now only bump in the road I have run into at Being Well Salford was when I joined a group promoting men's health. It all seemed like a good idea at the time, as I had gained some confidence by this stage and felt I could cope. But the first thing we had to do was go up to people in the street and try to convince them to go for a check-up on a bus that was set up for it. Now, just the thought of doing this almost gave me a panic attack. I made my excuses and went home feeling a failure.
I do believe that with any illness there are ups and downs. You always find yourself in this circle that you don't seem you can break out of.
What Being Well Salford have done is that they took my big problem, split it up into two, which was my isolation problem and my mental problem, and we concentrated on my isolation problem.
Now that I'm getting on top of things, I thought that things would swing along just fine. No more depression or panic attacks, always have a smile on my face and so on. This of course was wrong, as I've had the illness for so long it will always be with me.
The way I manage it is by writing a pros and cons list of how I was before and how I am now. And there's always ups rather than downs.
In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, my mood started to go down. Now in the past, this would have been the start of months of deep depression, not wanting to see or speak to anyone, and generally hating myself because I didn't think it would ever end.
And when the two were split up, things seemed a little less complicated and a bit more manageable.
But now I'm more in control of myself. I know that feeling down isn't the end of the world, and knowing this stops me from going into a depression, and I can carry on with my life. The more normal things I do, the better I feel.
And I find my way by always motivating myself and thinking of better ways for the future.
So now, basically, we've worked on my isolation, which is going to groups, going to my art thing, and basically my mental problem doesn't seem so big and so nasty.
So I've proved to myself that I can cope with my illness and that it doesn't define who I am. And as we were talking, the conversation got around to me maybe going with my sister when she walks a dog, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, getting out of the house and meeting people.
My brother's depression has not only had a negative effect on him, but also on those of us who love him. The ripple effect of his seeking and persevering with therapy is that we've also been released from the grip of this horrible disease.
Since starting to use Being Well in Salford, my close friends have noticed a massive change in my entire outlook on things. Once upon a time, I was so quick-tempered and snappy, my friends were afraid to approach me to ask me anything or even just to have a chit-chat.
Living with someone who is deeply depressed is time-consuming and frustrating, leading to feelings of anger, guilt and grief. So effective treatments means we have more time for ourselves. Seeing my brother regain a love of life, not just functioning but living life, is wonderful.
Now things are slowly improving and people now will approach me, have a chat, spend time with me. The best thing I hear from people saying is that it's great to actually sit, spend time with me, where I listen and not flare up, go mad and throw things.
He now has a can-do attitude and is willing to try so many things previously beyond his comfort zone. He loves being outdoors, walking my dog, chatting to other dog walkers. Best of all is seeing him use the tools he has now to prevent the spiral into deep depression when his mood dips.
Hearing these comments makes me want to improve further and mend what has been broken.
He is proof that the right therapy can change your life and the lives of those you love for the better.
Well, for me, the best tool that I found is actually my group sessions that I was referred to by Being Well.
Now that I have to think about life after Being Well Salford, I need to look at whether I have enough tools in the box to cope with life in the future.
And also my Arts on Prescription, which I found a great benefit because not only is the art content, which I really love art, but just being with like-minded human beings and just being there and with them, even if I'm saying nothing to them, is really positive for me.
I've been directed to other organisations for advice and information. This has led to me having some structure in daily living. Now I'm a bit more organised with life as I now have a full toolkit in place.
And that's what I've rediscovered with Being Well suggestions.
And the way forward for me is to keep thinking of new tools that I can add for further progression. Still a long way to go, but I'm finding things a little easier.
I have learnt that I can make mistakes and it isn't the end of the world. I realise that I cannot predict the future or read minds, something I've always tried to do. The future was always bleak, people all hated me, thus giving me a reason to stay locked indoors.
I can think back to our conversations, which usually and I never remember the content of the conversations, but the feeling that comes across, being treated, talking to someone, conversing with another human being, and that's the way that it helps me out on, let's say, these panic attacks.
Before I was referred to Being Well in Salford, I was accessing other services. This I'm grateful for, but I wasn't getting anything from them. I asked for help and I was referred to Being Well in Salford. Since doing this, my mood, my attitude, my personality has progressed quite a bit. I'm a calmer person. I've met some really nice people and we help each other in every session. All I can say is anyone out there needing help, look up Being Well in Salford. You'll be amazed. Thank you.
My working with the community reporters has brought me out of myself and been one of the best things I have ever done. I have more confidence in myself than I have had in years. I'm able to talk to strangers, which I just couldn't do before. I'm also able to think for myself and come up with ideas on my own, whereas before I would look to others to think for me. I've been able to interview people and make video reports to put on the internet. I feel human again for the first time in an absolute age. I would strongly recommend that Being Well groups send more people on this course, as I think it would do them the world of good.
It's a lot better. In fact, my life's improved at least 100%. I may still have problems with my moods and my panic attacks even, but still my life has improved.
Okay, so stop.